Donald Trump would be a disaster when it comes to foreign policy generally.
Given everything that the president is facing at the moment, how important do you think this speech will be?
I think this is perhaps one of the most important speeches that he's had to give as president of the United States, because it comes at a time when the race for president is now very clear, that it will be again a replay of 2020 between Biden and Trump. And this will be the largest audience that he speaks to, probably in months before the convention, at least. So he'll have the attention of the American people. And thirdly, he will have to, in the speech, be able to deal with some of the challenges that he faces in the election and, for that matter, as president.
First of all, it's clearly important that the performance is good and convincing, isn't it? There are a lot of concerns about his age, about the confusion that he has displayed. That performance is going to be scrutinized so closely, isn't it?
Yeah, he really has two main challenges. One is to be able to convey a strong sense of confidence in his abilities and make clear that his age and his experience and his maturity are assets and not liabilities. So that's got to come across, that ability to kind of convey to the American people that despite his age, that he has a real deep sense of confidence about his ability to continue as president of the United States.
And I'm going to talk a bit more about the content in a moment, but as someone who has served at the very highest level, when you've seen Joe Biden recently and he gets confused about who's the leader of countries like France and Germany, and he gets confused about which country he's talking about. I mean, are you concerned that, frankly, it's just a bit too late for him to contemplate serving another term in the White House?
No, not really, because I think when you engage in personal conversations with him, there's no question that he really is not only able to carry on a conversation, but that he has an understanding of the facts and the challenges that he's confronting. So he has both a realistic sense of where he's at, but also is able to speak with people in a way that makes clear that his age, although when you're 82, a lot of people are going to have some problems being 82. Trump has the same problems, but at the same time that he's got this grasp on who he is and has that experience and knowledge that is incredibly important to the kind of challenges that face the country. So, yeah, I think he's got to, in his speech, be able to make that same kind of connection with the American people.
And we're hearing that he's going to talk about the US setting up a temporary port to get more aid into Gaza, which might help a bit to get some more vitally needed supplies in. But the negotiations towards a ceasefire seem to have come to an end without any agreement. Do you think it was a bit of a mistake of Joe Biden to talk up the prospect of a ceasefire, saying we were going to have one by Monday of this week, when clearly that hasn't happened?
Well, I think it is the nature of these foreign policy challenges that not everything is going to fall into place, but the ability to continue the fight, the ability to continue to work these issues is what's critical right now. You can't just simply, say, walk away from these challenges and say it's just there's no use continuing this effort. So I think while these kinds of foreign policy challenges, particularly in Israel now, presents some challenges, without question, present some challenges. The fact that he does have tremendous experience, the fact that he has worked with these issues in the past, knows the players and knows the challenges, and that he has a sense of where this needs to go, even though Israel may not have as clear a sense about where it needs to go.
And do you think that Joe
I
Biden needs to do more?
He's got to stay in the fight. Okay, that's basically the message. That we're not going to walk away from the fight just because the players are still having a hard time figuring out how to get a ceasefire.
And do you think that Joe Biden needs to do more to stand up to Israel, to demand a ceasefire, to demand that it does more to allow humanitarian aid into Gaza? I mean, we've just seen on Super Tuesday that uncommitted vote, many voters simply deciding that they wanted to register their protest at his policy towards the war because they simply don't feel he's doing enough to help the Palestinian people.
I think this is a time when he can't just simply threaten Israel and say if you don't agree to a ceasefire, we're going to walk away from any support for you. I don't think that's going to work, and I think it would send exactly the wrong message about America's ability to stick with the fight. I do think that one way to do this is, kind of where he's focused these last few days with the aid drops that have taken place in Gaza. I think the decision, which I assume he's going to reveal in the State of the Union, is to try to build some additional ports in Gaza to be able to deliver aid and assistance. I think that's the way to go. And, whether or not Israel likes that, I think at the same time, Israel knows that it cannot take a position that basically says to hell with the humanitarian crisis in Gaza. And I think that's where the president can fill a vacuum here by providing necessary aid to those that are starving and having real problems as a result of this war.
What about Joe Biden's battle with Donald Trump? Do you think that tonight, I mean, the State of the Union address is not supposed to be a political event, but he's going to have to, in some way, address, isn't he, this big fight that he's on, because he's talked about this as being a campaign with the future of American democracy at stake?
No, I think that there is a way to approach this where he can define the fundamental principles that are important to our democracy and contrast where he stands with where Trump stands. For example, the fact that he has sworn an oath to protect, defend, and preserve our Constitution is one that he stands by and will continue to stand by. And it's clear that Trump has basically walked away from our Constitution in what he did after the election. Secondly, that he stands for the rule of law, that it's important to abide by the rule of law and not simply ignore the requirements of law, that order is critical to our democracy as opposed to chaos. That thirdly, he stands for free and fair elections, that's what democracy depends on. And we've just gone through a set of elections that prove that the American people can show up and express themselves in the vote. And that's critical to our democracy. And lastly, It's about world leadership, the issue we just talked about. Donald Trump wants to walk away from world leadership responsibility. Joe Biden understands that the United States has to be a world leader, has to engage with our allies, not withdraw from our allies. And he's got to show how important that is to protecting our security in the future, as opposed to the policies that Trump wants to put in place that basically stress isolationism.
Donald Trump at the moment has a clear lead in the polls. He could well win another term in the White House. What do you think that a second Trump presidency would mean for the United States and indeed for its relations with other important powers?
Well, I fear for our democracy if Trump is reelected because of who he is, and because of the fact that he doesn't have a respect for the moral nature of the presidency of the United States, which is to abide by the law, abide by our Constitution, and do the right thing. And most importantly, Donald Trump loves to complain about the problems that are there. But the one thing that Donald Trump does not want to speak to is how you solve the problems that he's complaining about. He'll say America's going to hell. He'll say America is in a terrible place. But I have yet to hear Donald Trump say, as President of the United States, these are the steps that I'm going to take to deal with immigration, to deal with health care, to deal with the problems of the economy that we're facing. He doesn't have a solution. His approach to dealing with issues that he showed in his first 4 years was to create chaos and hope that somehow out of chaos, something good can happen. That's a hell of a way to govern.
Just finally, one other really important issue, that of Ukraine, the war in Ukraine. Donald Trump has said he would solve the war there within 24 hours. Clearly, a lot of people in Ukraine are very concerned that he'd try to cut some sort of deal with President Putin, which would mean the Ukrainians sacrificing a great chunk of their country. And we've already got Republicans in Congress holding up that big package of aid. What do you think Donald Trump would do about the war in Ukraine?
I don't think anybody knows what the hell he would do as president. The fear is that he would basically in some way capitulate to Putin. Why is that a fear? Yeah, well, for me, it's the fact that Donald Trump stood next to Putin in Helsinki and basically said he trusts Russian intelligence ahead of the United States' intelligence when it comes to defining the interference in our election. That was an unbelievable moment where the president was basically saying he trusts Russia over the United States. And he has always had this kind of it's a frightening relationship with Putin because he has never clearly defined that Putin is somebody whose fundamental interest is in undermining the United States and our democracy. That's what Putin's about. Those of us in intelligence know damn well that that's what Putin focuses on, is undermining democracies. And if somehow he thinks that he can create magic as president in finding a solution to Ukraine, all one has to do is think about the magic that he failed to create with Kim Jong-un in the meetings there. He kept saying he would work out a deal. He kept saying it was important for him because of his great personality to be able to meet with Kim Jong-un, but he failed, and he failed miserably because he isn't willing to do the homework. that you have to do as president of the United States. So I think Donald Trump would be a disaster when it comes to foreign policy generally.
Leon Panetta, really good to speak to you, sir. Thank you very much.
Good to talk with you.